Yo, what's good, everybody? It's your girl T. We back with another video. Happy Tuesday, Taco Tuesday, by the way. Um, I'm doing a little bit something different today. You know, I want to actually dive deep and actually talk about how many, you know, content creator, um, fellow content creator, um, folks out there that's actually doing this like I am. Um, it's fun. It's cool to see that there's a lot of, you know, Steelers content creation out there because, you get to see different, forms of thoughts, perspectives, and opinions about the teams and stuff like that. Also, there's people out there that go back in time and talk about the Steelers' history, the past, and how this team, because there was once upon a time where the Steelers wasn't always a winning team, and then you got people that talk about the winning Super Bowls, six Super Bowls that we had, and the success we had in the organization and the players, Hall of Fame players that came across our team and played for us, and it's just exciting and actually, you know, you get to actually sit like for me, I also watch a few of these guys. Some of them, of course, we talk about the present of the Steelers and how the organization is, and how the players are, and what people thoughts and perspectives and opinions about at the end of the day. But as well, um, there's also Steelers fans out there that talk about where this organization didn't really have a winning season. Um, like this was like way past my time, but there was a time, we didn't have, a good seasons and things like that. And then, you know, it started to get better and better, as we, had the GMs come across us, Art Rooney and, his success, Bill Coward too, and others before Bill Coward, um, you know, made this organization success, the traditions, um, and all that, the culture of the Pittsburgh Steelers, the black and gold, um, what it means to some people, and they take until this day they still take this serious, as they should. Um, that's why I love talking to some Steelers fans. I say some, but I like talking to some Steelers fans who live longer than I have. Because I get I want to ask questions like. So I'm curious, like what actually happened in the '60s, the '70s, the '80s, because um I wasn't like born in those years, So I asked them, you know, I was curious of how the organization was, and stuff. Some people, been living when the Pittsburgh Steelers weren't like actually good. And it's always good to, see folks that's been a Steelers fan longer than you have. And it's not it's good to ask questions. Like I said, I had a few folks on my panel. Um, they come up on live. They come up in my live and talk, and they be like, "Hey, I've been a Steelers fan for a long time," and you just, I like sitting there listening to them, because they actually watching the Steelers for years, and you get to learn some different things. It's not like that's why I be telling people, man. It's not about like being right or wrong. You always can learn things for with certain people, certain Steelers fan, folks that been watching the Steelers, beyond their time. And now, you know what I'm saying? It's always good to, actually have conversations with, Pittsburgh Steelers folks who's been, watching them for a very long time, and you gotta respect them. Like, I appreciate them. Like, it's it's something to think about. It's something like, wow, because I sit here and make a lot of Steelers videos that y'all like, and I appreciate it. Y'all support. You get to start looking like, wow, man. I'm talking about a few years, and these guys been watching for, been a Steelers fan forever, and it's the beauty. It's just the beauty of actually seeing them talking about what we did have in the past and what we do have now. And you learn different things. You start to see, you open your mind up differently, and the things that they saw in their years of being a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. um I wouldn't even imagine, because I wasn't born that that those years. But like I said, it's always good to learn the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers, because one guy told me, he's a long time Steelers fan, by the way. One guy told me that it's always good to learn your history of your team and what the team has meant, or what the team stood for, and all the traditions, the culture, and things like that. All the GMs that came before, all the owners that came before, coaches, players. Um, it's good to learn those things, because I feel like a lot of times when I watch certain folks, they don't really know exactly what that means. Like I said, I do my research on things. Like, sometimes I do my research on things I don't know, and in the past, you like, dang, really, that happened. You learn different things. There's nothing wrong with that. And you just bring it to the internet, and then there might be a few viewers be like, oh yeah, I remember those. I remember that game. You bring up. It's a beauty to talk to the older generation of my time as a Steelers fan, and they just warm your heart, because they like, yeah, this what we was back then compared to now. Um, they give you a different perspective of, on things this organization has done until now, and I just can't think of not even some content creators that's been doing this forever, years, and they been Steelers fans past my time, and all you got to do, and they get you thinking, and you just got to do your proper research. Um, it's amazed me, every each and every day. Even like, I got a few people that's on here, that watch me. Um, they tell me all the time, whether they write me in DMs, they be like, I love the way you are nonchalant, and you don't sugarcoat when it comes to the Steelers. Um, I respect you, but at the same time, you know, this is been us. You gotta look at it how we was back then compared to now. They go so on, and talking to me, and I sit back and I listen, and then after our conversation, I go and do research, because like I said, 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, that was past my time. I was born in 1996, so um you know, just actually looking at the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you got these Steelers fans who's been a fan, is just amazing me, though. But my time is up on this TikTok. I hate that it's 10 minutes, but man, I'll talk to y'all.